So I personally don't think that the Lucien bond is fake. I think when Lucien kind of follows the bond and he actually tugs on it and Elaine feels it, and the narration lets us know that she felt it and he is aware that she felt it, and for him to be like, "Oh shit, it's a real bond." I would have a hard time thinking that the bond is fake. And honestly, if an El Real Endgame is on the horizon, I really don't want this mating bond to be fake. I think it would just be like a red herring plot device. And I also think it would make Lucien's story a lot sadder. Before Elaine, Lucien thought that his dead ex-girlfriend, Jasminda, was his mate. And since we now know that Elaine was his mate this whole time, we don't really know what he was feeling with Jasminda. But what we do know is that he thought this was his mate. He was absolutely convinced. I think if the Lucien bond is fake and this turns out to be his mate after all, or even worse, his mate is still out there, I feel like that is worse. I feel like all this work that he's going to have to do in order to get over this woman, because when he meets Elaine in ACOTAR, he is still not over this woman. I think all that work would be for nothing, and I feel like that would be much sadder than Lucien eventually like getting over her, working with Elaine to break this bond, and then maybe ending up with Vasa, perhaps as a human. That I feel like is a happier ending than him finding out that he's never getting over this. And yes, there are some loves that you don't get over, but at the same time, I don't think that ACOTAR is a story about that. If anything, Nesta and Feyre, they are all coming from past relationships that sucked, and they thought that they would never get over it, and they thought that they would never get past all that trauma, but then they did, and they fell in love with their admittedly garbage men. It's a story about overcoming like the trauma of your past loves. And even though Jasminda didn't do anything bad, she still died, and like that's still a trauma upon Lucien. And I think if the mating bond is fake and this is his mate after all, that's so hard. That's going to be way harder to get over and much more tragic. And Lucien, I feel like he doesn't deserve that. I feel like there's many, many characters who do not deserve that, but Lucien deserves that not at all. Like, truly not at all. I think at best, it's not going to be a true, like, fake mating bond. Like, I don't really know what the deal is with Throne of Glass and the fake mating bond. From what I understand, it's Rowan. Like, I'm in the tandem read. I don't care. My whole book club has essentially DNF'd this. I'm the only one who's still eventually going to try and muscle through this fucking tandem read. But oh my god, Empire of Storms bores me to tears. But I think at best, we're going to get this thing about like Caranam versus like true mating bonds, and maybe Lucien and Elaine are Caranam instead of true mating bonds, and they don't know what a Caranam is. So like it feels the way that it did with Jasminda, but not quite, which is why Lucien's like, hey, this feels different than what it was like with Jasminda. Maybe it's not that Jasminda wasn't his true mate, it's just she wasn't his Caranam. And I think that would make sense, but I think it still keeps Lucien, in the words of the illustrious Taylor Swift, trapped in the restaurant. And I don't want him to be like, help, I'm still at the restaurant. No, I don't want that for him. I will say, if anyone's getting a Caranam bond, it's these two, especially since Sarah was like, oh no, Az and Bryce aren't going to end up together. Like, they're not mates. Like, that's not a thing. Caranam bonds aren't mates. So perhaps that is still on the table. I'm weirdly fixated on them for someone who is a diehard El Real. I do think that like this would be an interesting parallel to the ELUCIEN mating bond that they might not want, and they definitely wouldn't want it because Azriel's in love with Elaine and Bryce is in love with Hunt. Like, I do think that it would work. But at this point, Sarah said no. I gotta let the dream of parallel unwanted mating bonds go. That being said, I personally don't think that it's fake. I don't think that it's fake. I think that it's different than a true mating bond, like something that like Feyre has or something that Bryce has with Hunt even. I don't know. I feel like that's too easy. I feel like for a 1,400 page story, like as from what it seems like we're getting, I feel like it's just not, it's just not enough conflict. We need more conflict.